Hello everyone. This is theme set 4. Do I need to say anything about this particular topic? I guess no. 2 questions repeated verbatim in 2012 and 2015. Who knows, you get a similar question in 2024 also. This is your Buddhism and Jainism. I know you might be waiting for this particular set very specifically. So basically, Buddhism and Jainism is on their concepts, the ideas, their schisms, sects, and the literature. And you will be able to see art related aspects also, okay? In some of them in this set also, and some in your art and culture set also. Okay, but majority of them I covered comprehensively in the separate notes of Buddhism and Jainism. Okay, so without much delay, let's begin this topic. In a very layman term, to counter the prevailing Brahmanism, 2 philosophical ideas appeared in the scene: Buddhism and Jainism. If we talk about it since the evolution, then we should know about their families a little bit. So, Mahavira was born around 600 BC. Mahavira's father Siddhartha was chief of the Janatri clan, and mother Trishala was sister of Lichavi chief Chetaka. Buddha was born in 550 BC as Siddhartha, son of Shuddhodhan, chief of the Shakya clan, who ruled from Kapilvastu. His mother Maya gave birth to him in a grove at Lumbini while travelling toward her parents' home, who died within a few days. Now there is some similarities between both these religions, Jainism and Buddhism. They both denied the authority of Vedas. They both denied the necessity of performing rituals. Let me select the pen. Yes. They both denied the necessity of performing rituals and sacrifices, and they both opposed animal sacrifices. Then both religions gave many ideas and concepts. Some of the prominent ones, in a very nutshell, are as follows. First, for the Jainism, Anuvrata. Just these are the excerpts from the notes. There are 5 great vows, Pancha Mahavrata, for monks and nuns in Jainism. The aim of these vows is to bring about inner purification. Number 1 is Ahimsa, not to injure any living being. Satya and Sunrata, not to utter any falsehood. Asteya, not to take what is not given, not to steal. Brahmacharya, to lead a celibate life. And Aparigraha, non-possession, to call nothing one's own. For the laity, the basic discipline consists the Anuvratas, lesser vows, which are a modified form of the Mahavratas of monks and nuns. So Anuvrata and Mahavrata. Anuvrata were for lesser, considered as lesser vows for the common man, and Mahavratas were for Jain monks and nuns. On Ahimsa, the idea of Jainism prevented agriculturists from embracing Jainism because cultivation invoked killing of insects. Anekantavad, one of the most important topic of Jainism, the doctrine of Anekantavad and Shyadvad, which is the doctrine of maybe, emphasized the relativity of all knowledge. The Jain doctrine of Anekantavad, the doctrine of the manifold nature of reality, holds that reality is very complex and has multiple aspects. The essential point behind Shyadvad and Anekantavad is that reality cannot be grasped in its entirety and complexity. What was the Jain idea of world creation? According to Jainism, the universe and its components like air, water, soil have always existed. All the constituents and actions are governed by universal natural laws. And some more crucial aspects of Jain doctrine are: surest way of annihilating karma is to practice penance. Every smallest particle has a soul. Karma is bane of soul and must be ended. Okay, now coming to Buddhism ideas. Eightfold Path. It is often represented by Dharma Chakra, whose 8 spokes represents 8 elements of the path. Some characteristics of Buddha's teachings. Terms are highlighted in the yellow color. The core of Buddha's doctrine is expressed in the Ariya Satchani. These are the 4 noble truths: Dukkha, Samudaya, Nirodha, and this Ashtanga Magga, eightfold path. Okay, this thing. Sorry, not this one. Dukkha, there is suffering, there is cause of suffering, there are factors to remove that suffering, and way to achieve this is following the Ashtanga Magga, eightfold path. Nirvana, simply it is extinction of the flame of desire. Okay, extinction of the flame of desire. These are the words of UPSC, but understand it here, it's an important idea of Buddhism. The ultimate goal of the Buddha's teaching was the attainment of Nirvana. Nibbana is a Pali word. This was not a place but an experience and could be attained in this life. The Buddha is supposed to have experienced Nibbana, as did some of his disciples. Nibbana literally means blowing out, dying out, or extinction. The dying out of or extinction of what? Of desire, attachment, greed, hatred, ignorance, and the sense of I-ness. Other words such as Vimokha, Vimukti, and Arhatta are sometimes also used for Nibbana. They all have connotations of freedom, self-mastery, and emancipation, and mean breaking out of the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Nibbana does not mean physical death. The term Parinibbana, complete or final dying out, is used for the death of an enlightened being such as the Buddha. The Buddha's teaching accepts the idea of transmigration, samsara, but rejects the idea of the Atman. This is very important. The Buddhism accepts samsara but reject the Atman. Now there was a famous ceremony known as the Pavaran ceremony. In this ceremony, every monk, irrespective of rank or seniority, agrees willingly to receive instruction from any other monk in the monastery if he acts improperly. Kind of monk's confessions. So, where it all happened? In the Pavarana ceremony. So remember this Pavarana ceremony. Now monks and monasteries remind me to tell you about the places where the monks resided, Chaityas and the Viharas. The period of 200 BC to 300 AD saw the expansions in the number and scale of Buddhist monastic complexes, known variously as Sangharam, Vihar, or Lena, which included dwellings for monks, stupas, and shrines. The term Chaitya means sacred space, but it is more specifically used to refer to Buddhist shrines. Large and independent stupas soon came to form an integral part of Buddhist monasteries. So Chaityas were in total basically a worship place, while Viharas were residential space for wandering monks. Now let us see some important Jain literary works. Acharanga Sutra. It is the first of the 12 Angas, part of the Agamas, which were compiled based on the teachings of 24th Jana Mahavira. Sutra Kritanga. It is the second Agam of 12 main Angas of the Jain canon. It provides detailed information about the life of Mahavira. Brihat Kalp Sutra, composed by Bhadrabahu I. Now this flowchart, I am again repeating it. When you see the Buddhist literature, you have the Tipitakas. There are 3 parts: Sutta, Vinaya, and Abhidhamma. Sutta Pitaka comprises 5 Nikayas: Digha Nikaya, Madhyam Nikaya, Samyukta Nikaya, Anguttara Nikaya, Khuddaka Nikaya. Khuddaka Nikaya comprises Jatakas, Dhammapada and Therigatha and Therigathas. What are they? I already told this many times before. Now Bodhisattvas are yet another topic in the vogue. We will see many questions based on Bodhisattvas. First of all, Bodhisattva word means a future Buddha. The idea of the Bodhisattva, a wisdom being, a wise being, is known to earlier Buddhism. However, the idea assumed greater importance in Mahayana. The highest goal in the older Buddhism was the attainment of Nibbana and becoming an Arhat. Mahayana considered this a lesser goal. The higher one considered in following the path of a Bodhisattva and attaining Buddhahood. There is a crucial difference between the Arhat and Bodhisattva. I don't know why, if UPSC come to frame a very tough question, they can give you kind of a comparison from here. The Arhat is one who strives to attain Nibbana, and having achieved this goal for himself, disappears from the cycle of samsara. But Bodhisattva, on the other hand, is one who has attained great wisdom but decides to refrain from taking the final step into Nibbana, choosing to actively engage with the world and help others to achieve the Nibbana. Fine. So they are like a teacher and a student. Okay. Among the countless Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, a few became the special focus of monastic and lay worship. These included the heavenly Buddha named Amitabha. The heavenly Bodhisattvas included Maitreya, the kind Buddha or the future Buddha. Avalokiteshvara, the Lord who looks down with compassion, was supposed to be one of Amitabha's assistants and was considered the epitome of compassion. Manjushri, sweet glory, was supposed to be an assistant of heavenly Buddha Shakyamuni and was associated closely with wisdom. His images shown him holding a lotus on which there is a copy of the Prajnaparamita Sutra. Vajrapani was considered a protector of snakes and guardian of the elixir of life. The Gandhara artist also carved Bodhisattva images. Maitreya seems to have been portrayed most often. Avalokiteshvara, also known as Padmapani, was another popular figure. Maitreya can be identified by the vase he holds in his left hand, while Padmapani holds a lotus. Padma means lotus. Unlike the Buddha figures, the Bodhisattvas are often heavily ornamented. Okay, now with the passage of time, councils happened and various schools, sects, subsects evolved from Buddhism and Jainism. Just see them here in these tables and flowcharts in one go and keep revising them. Okay. 4 Buddhist council. Okay. They happened in these years. First council, 483 BC. Saptaparni cave at Rajgriha. Mahakassapa. The royal patron Ajashatru of Haryanka dynasty. What were the developments of first Buddhist council? Compilation of Sutta Pitaka and Vinaya Pitaka by Ananda and Upali respectively. Second council, it happened in 383 BC. Okay, just after 100 years. Minus 100, 483, 383. Where at Vaishali, chairmen were Sabakami, patronage by Kalashoka of Shishvanaga dynasty. Developments were here Sthavirvadin and Mahasanghikas. Third council happened in 250 BC at Patliputra. Chairmen were Mogalipatitissa. Patron were Ashoka of Maurya dynasty. Abhidhamma Pitaka composed in this council. And the fourth council happened on 72 AD, where in Kashmir, Kundalwan, Vasumitra was the chairman and vice chairman was Ashvaghosha. Patron were Kanishka of Kushana dynasty. And it is here in 4th Buddhist council that Buddhism bifurcated into Hinayana and Mahayana. And if I just show it to you, these are the Buddhist Sanghas. I'm sorry, I don't know how to reverse this. So yes, if you see The Buddhist Sangha. This is the diagram which I have created. These are the two first major schisms occurred in the Buddhism before the Mahayana and Hinayana, the Mahasangika and Sthavirvada. The Mahasangika offshoots were mainly Chaitaka, Lokottarvadan, Kukkutika and Gokulika, and Eka Vyavharikas. Sthavirvadan segregated into Pudgalvada, Vibhajivada and Sarvastivada. Now if you can see here, Pudgalvada, the subsect of Pudgalvada were Samitya, Dharmottariya, Bhadrayaniya and Sannagarika. Vibhajivada, their subsets were Thervada and Mahishasak or Dharmaguptaka. Sarvastivadin subdivided into Kashyapiya, Sautrantika, Mool Sarvastivadin and Vibhashika. From Mahasangika emerged the Mahayanas, and from Sthavirvadan emerged your Hinayana. Fine, so this was a crux of all kind of break or kind of a divergence happened in the Buddhism, and this is how the evolution of these many sects happened from the Mahasangikas and Sthavirvadans with the passage of time. So some of the main features of Mahayana Buddhism, they are deification of Buddha, treading the path of bodhisattvas, and image worship and rituals. If we see in the crux, Mahayana, Hinayana and Vajrayana. Mahayana, very simple, you know this, that it is known by great vehicle or the great way. Hinayana by little vehicle or lower way, and Vajrayana diamond vehicle. Mahayana teaches the attainment of salvation for all, whereas Hinayana teaches the attainment of salvation for oneself only. Mahayana ideal is the bodhisattva, the heroic being whose practice 6 or 10 perfections, the paramitas, whereas Hinayana insists upon the necessity of the monastic life. The most widespread school of Hinayana are Sarvastivadin that we have seen. And Mahayana we have Madhyamika and Yogacara, two prominent schools of Mahayana. And Vajrayana, like Vajra, thunderbolt, it immediately annihilate all obstacles to the attainment of Buddhahood. It is yogic and magical in character. Now we will see the Jain councils. Only two councils happened, 300 BC and the second in 512 AD. First Jain council happened in Patliputra under the chairmanship of Sthulabhadra, patron were Chandragupta Maurya, and what was the development? Compilation of 12 Angas to replace the 14 Purvas. And second council happened much later in 512 AD at Vallabhi, Gujarat. Chairmen were Devri Digni, Shama Shramana. Developments were final compilation of 12 Angas and 12 Upangs. Now if we see the sects of Jainism, of course two main are Shvetambara and Digambara, but in Shvetambara we have Murti Pujak, Sthanakvasi and Terapanthi. Sthanakvasi emerged from the Lonka sect, it is said. Digambaras, Bees Panth, Terapanth, Taran Panth, Samaya Panth, Kuman Panth and Tota Panth. So these are the subsect of Digambara. Now if we see the patronization of Jainism and Buddhism by various dynasties and kings, so if we see about the Buddhism, then Greek, Kushana and Shaka embraced Buddhism because caste-driven Hinduism did not attract them. Pal rulers of eastern India like Devpal patronized Buddhism. Ikshvaku rulers of the south patronized Buddhism. Some key patrons of Buddhism were Bimbisara, Ajatashatru and Prasenjit. Ashoka patronized Buddhism. You know this obviously, no need to say. Pushyamitra Shunga was cruel against Buddhism. The Divyavdan gives stories of Pushyamitra's cruelty and his animosity towards Buddhism. Kanishka patronized Buddhism. He patronized it and said to have Buddhist scholars such as Ashvaghosha and Vasumitra in his court. Harsha seems to have been a devotee of Shiva but was also partial towards Buddhism. He convened a great the Kannauj assembly where Huenzang along with many others gave discussion on Mahayana doctrines. Now if we see the patronization of Jainism by the dynasties and their rulers, so Jainism enjoyed the patronage of the Kalinga king Kharvel in the 1st century BC. The 1st century BC Hathigumpha inscription of Kalinga king Kharvel refers to his retrieving an image of a Jana. This is the earliest epigraphic reference to image worship in Jainism. The Udaygiri and Khandagiri caves in Odisha are among the oldest long-standing centers of Jain monasticism. Jainism was spread in South India. Keep this in mind. Jainism is spread in the south by Bhadrabahu and followers known as the Digambaras. The Jain who remained under the leadership of Sthulbahu were called Shvetambara. Shvetambara, the monks who were wearing the white clad, and Digambaras nude. Jainism attracted royal patronage from various quarters. An 8th century text called the Kovalyamala by Udyotan Suri suggests that the Hona ruler Toraman extended patronage to Jainism. The early Pallava, Western Gangas, Parmar, Kadambas, Chalukyas of Gujarat and Rashtrakutas too. Their inscription refer to various Jain sects such as the Nirgranthas, Shvetapatas, Yapaniyas and Kurchakas. These are also the sects of Jainism. Okay, so terms are mentioned here. Nirgranthas, Shvetapatas, Yapaniyas and Kurchakas. Jainism was popular in parts of Rajasthan, Gujarat, Bengal, Odisha, MP, UP and Karnataka. Digambara sect was more widespread than the Shvetambara sect. At last, some artistic aspect of Buddhism. There are so many mudras in which Buddha's image are there. One important one is Bhumi Sparsha Mudra. What this mudra shows? Buddha's calling the earth, Bhumi, to witness his purity despite the temptations of Mara. Mara you can consider as a celestial being who stops you from attaining enlightenment. So this is it as per the thing which I have arranged in this format. Now we will see question one by one. Very simple to very tough also. Vardhaman Mahavira mother was daughter of Lichavi chief Chetaka. No. Gautam Buddha's mother was a princess from the Koshalan dynasty. Yes, it is correct. And Parshvanath, the 23rd Tirthankar, belonged to Banaras. Yes, he did. Moving to the next question. Now, if you read this statement number 1, they made it very long, so much detailed, but it covered in your notes. Digambara and Shvetambara traditions both describe Vardhaman as wandering about for about 12 years, practicing severe austerities including medication and fasting. Vardhaman is supposed to have attained Kaivalya Gyan, infinite knowledge or omniscience, outside the town of Jrimbhika Gram on the banks of Rijupalika river. Jrimbhika Gram on the banks of the Rijupalika river. Who? Vardhaman Mahavira. Now the statement 1 saying Vardhaman Mahavira attained Kaivalya Gyan outside the town of Jrimbhika Gram on the bank of river Rijupalika and in the field of a householder named Samaga. In the field of where it is mentioned, of course, from your Rupinder Singh, word by word, I just mentioned this much information till the Rijupalika river, on the banks of Rijupalika river, but they kept going till the full stop, in the field of a householder named Samaga. So this is the idea. And the state when the karma particles actually begin to flow toward the jeev to bind it is known as asrava. Verbatim, the state when the karma particles actually begin to flow towards the jiva to bind it is known as asrava. So both the statements here are correct, and this question appeared in most recently CAPF 2023. Now quickly do the simple questions. The concept of anuvrata, Jainism advocated it. Anekantavada theory, philosophy of Jainism. The Jain philosophy holds that the world is created and maintained by universal soul. Assertion reason based. The emphasis of Jainism on non-violence means ahimsa prevented agriculturists from embracing Jainism. Yes, because cultivation involved killing of insects and pests. And I think this is straight from your NCERT. Simple question. Also another quite relatively simple, a quote based. Souls are not only the property of animal and plant life but also of rocks, running water and many other natural objects not looked on as living by other religious sects. The above statement reflect one of the core belief of which one of the following religious sects of ancient India? Yes, Jainism, easy. Now this question, which of the following statement will be applicable to Jain doctrine? All the three things. The surest way of annihilating karma is to practice penance. Every object, even the smallest particle, has a soul, and karma is the bane of the soul and must be ended. Now this question, 4 statement, 3 are wrong, 1 is correct. Jainism was spread in South India under the leadership of Sthulabahu. No, it was you know this, Bhadrabahu. The Jains who remained under the leadership of Bhadrabahu were called Shwetambaras after the council held at Patliputra. No, they were called the Digambaras. Jainism enjoyed the patronage of the Kalinga king Kharvela in the 1st century BC. Yes, in the initial stage of Jainism, the Jain worshipped images unlike the Buddhist. No, this is wrong. They also did not worship the images like Buddhists. Now this question about the Shwetambara sect of Jainism, which is not correct. It refers to the monks who migrated to the south of Vindhyas in 4th century BCE. No, not at all. It referred to monks who wear white cloth. Yes, that is why Shwet Ambar, white clothes. They recognize the existence of canonical texts including the 12 Angas. Yes. They believe that women can also attain salvation. Yes. And this is very interesting thing to read straight from Upinder Singh. The Jain literature. The Shwetambara canon include the 12 Angas, 12 Uvamgas or Upangas, 10 Painas, 6 Chhaya Sutta, Mula Sutta, and a number of individual texts such as the Nandi Sutta. This I covered in your chapter 1 notes. Okay, and Anugodra also. All these terms I mentioned. Now see this thing. The issue of clothing was central to the Jaina debate on gender and salvation. As mentioned earlier, Digambars emphasized the necessity of nudity for members of the order. For them, clothes counted as possessions and were associated with passion, sexual desire, and shame. However, they seem to have shared the social disapproval of women moving around naked in public. A woman's body was thus the obstacle to her attaining salvation. So this is what the Digambaras thought. Okay, and I read it that Digambara, they think that if a woman want to attain salvation, then she should first take rebirth as a man, then she should go for attaining of the salvation. But according to the Shvetambara, okay, contrary to the Dikambara sect, wearing or not wearing clothes was optional. Women could attain moksha in their lifetime. Monks and nuns of Shvetambara took the same vow and in theory were considered on par with each other. So this was the idea. Hence, our statement is correct that yes, Sri Shvetambara sect believed that women can also attain the salvation. With reference to religious practice, Sthanakvasi sect belonged to Jainism. Which one of the following is not a part of Jain literature? Therigatha, I told you. Theories, elder nun of Buddhism. Therigathas, the elder nun songs, part of Khudak Nikaya. Akarang Sutra, Sutra Kritanga, and Brihat Kalpa Sutra. All these three are part of your Jain literature. Moving to next question, simple question. Who is not a Jainacharya? Khema. Then who is Khema? There, Therigatha, verses of elder nuns. Some elder nuns in the Buddhism, I mentioned this thing in your notes. Khema, Dhammadinna Theri, and Padachara. These three are elder nuns. You can get a question. Now, elder nuns supposed to have been composed by 72 nuns, the Therigathas, who have reached a high level of spiritual attainment. Many of these nuns are described as possessing Tevijja, important term, the three kind of knowledge and attributes of Arhat. Okay, now this question. Many of the Greeks, Kushans and Shakas embraced Buddhism rather than Hinduism because caste within Hinduism did not attract them. Simple. Now, another based on the patronage towards Buddhism. The Ikshvaku rulers of southern India were antagonistic toward Buddhism. No, they favored it. The Pala ruler of eastern India were patrons of Buddhism. Yes. So both the Ikshvaku rulers and the Pala rulers of eastern India, the Ikshvaku ruler of southern India and Pala ruler of eastern India, they both were the patrons of Buddhism. Now, why did Buddhism start declining in India in the early medieval times? Because Buddha was by that time considered as one of the incarnations of Vishnu and thus became a part of Vaishnavism. Now, these two things like invading tribes from Central Asia till the time of last Gupta king adopted Hinduism and persecuted Buddhists, no, they too supported Buddhism. Kings of Gupta dynasty were strongly, this is totally absurd statement, of course, they were so close to Buddhism. Now this question, who among the following presided over the Buddhist council held during the reign of Kanishka and Kashmir Vasumitra from the table of 4 Buddhist council? The concept of eightfold path forms the theme of Dharmachakra Pravartan Sutta related with Buddhism, Atthanga Magga. Now the ceremony, Pavarana ceremony, in ancient Indian Buddhist monasteries, a ceremony called Pavarana used to be held. It was the confession by monks of their offences committed during their stay in the monasteries during the rainy season. Which one of the following describes best the concept of nirvana in Buddhism? Simple, the extinction of the flame of desire. This is the concept of nirvana in Buddhism. Lord Buddha's image on Bodhisattvas now. Lord Buddha's image is sometimes shown with the hand gesture called Bhumi Sparsha Mudra. It symbolizes simply Buddha's calling on the earth to witness his purity and chastity despite the temptations of Mara. Now this question, difference between the Chaitya and Vihara. So it goes like, some Buddhist rock-cut caves are called Chaitya while the others are called Viharas. What's the difference between the two? So the main difference is Chaitya is a place of worship while Vihara is a dwelling place of the monks. This is a reverse statement, number A, hence it is wrong. Chaitya is the stupa at the far end of the cave while Vihara is a whole. No, that's absurd thing. There is no material difference between the two. Of course there is difference. With reference to Indian history, who among the following is a future Buddha yet to come to save the world? Future Buddha, we have seen this, Maitreya. Which of the above are the features of Mahayana Buddhism? All these three: deification of the Buddha, treading the path of Bodhisattvas, image worship, and the rituals. With reference to religious history of India, consider these following statements. The concept of Bodhisattva is central to Hinayana sect of Buddhism. No, we have seen this, that Mahayana. And these two are correct. That Bodhisattva is a compassionate one on his way to enlightenment, yes. And Bodhisattva delays achieving his own salvation to help all sentient beings on their path to it, yes. Very easy question. In the Mahayana Buddhism, the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara was also known as Padmapani. So the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, Padmapani. With reference to the religious history of India, consider these statements. Now, question on the sects. Sautrantika and Samitya were the sects of Jainism. No, we have seen they are part of Buddhism. Sarvastivadin held that the constituents of the phenomena were not wholly momentary, but existed forever in a latent form. This is correct. Another question with reference to the religious history of India, consider these statements. Sarvastivadins belong to Mahayana Buddhism. No, they belonged to your Hinayana sect. Lokuttarvadin sect was an offshoot of Mahasanghika sect of Buddhism. Absolutely. The deification of Buddha by Mahasanghikas fostered the Mahayana Buddhism. Yes. Now at last, this same question of 1996 got repeated verbatim in 2012. First, we are seeing the 1996 question. Which of the following were common to both Buddhism and Jainism? Penance and enjoyment. No, it was more favored by the Jainism but not by the Buddhism. So there is no similarity between Buddhism and Jainism on this ground. Yes, indifference to the authority of the Vedas. Yes, they both agreed on this. Denial of efficacy of rituals. Yes, he both denied. And non-injury to animal life. Yes. Now see the same question. They just decrease one statement and frame the same question word by word. With reference to the history of ancient India, which of the following were common to both Buddhism and Jainism? Avoidance of extremities of penance, as we have seen this, it's wrong. Indifferences to the authority of the Vedas and denial of efficacy of rituals. Fine. So this is the thing. This is the importance of revising previous year questions, because as you can see, you are getting the same questions covered as a previous year question from 1996 to 2012. Okay, so this is the thing. Word by word, they are picking up the question and changing up the options slightly here and there, and you have a new question. Fine. Okay, so this was your Buddhism and Jainism. I hope you enjoyed this set, and I urge you to revise the appendix number 2, which is based on Buddhism and Jainism, in your notes for more things related to this topic. And I hope this much will be more than sufficient for you to answer any type of unconventional question asked on Buddhism and Jainism. Okay, with this I take a leave. Thank you so much. See you in the next set.